Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Gossip Finance, where I am your host, Alacius Ingham.
And I'm Duncan Sandlin. Hi, everybody. Hi, Lacey. How's it going today?
Excellent.
Good
Man,
stuff.
the news is kind of a weird place to be right now. So
It is.
What do you want to start with here?
Well, let's start with the Republican presidential debate. It's tonight. We're filming on the 27th. So Republican presidential debate 2, Electric Boogaloo. So let's see who's on the roster. So let's go to Fox News because they're all excited about it. And we'll see what the Fox said.
Of course they are.
What did the Fox say?
Big reveal for you at the moment. The Republican National Committee announcing 7 candidates have qualified for the second primary debate. And for the first time right here in America's Newsroom, we can tell you exactly where they will be standing on the stage. So here we go. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis once again.
This looks like Monday Night Football.
Oh my.
This is ridiculous. They got him in front.
This makes me think of the 90s when I used to watch basketball, and these are your Chicago Bulls.
All right, here's the dream team.
These guys are not nearly as cool as the Chicago Bulls were in the 90s.
These guys aren't cool at all. Why try?
Governor Vivek Ramaswamy will flank the governor to his
Wait. You got to do this. Go back. Look, see, he's looking down. And then he looks up and smiles. Look up and smile. See, they're going to do it all. Look down, look up and smile. I know that's some director told him to do that. Oh, that's funny.
And on the wings, former Vice President Mike Pence will be stage right.
And of course, Mike fucks it up.
Doug Burgum will be stage left. And there,
well, that was awkward.
It all goes down tomorrow night at the Ronald Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California. Dana Perino joins us now. One of the
oh God,
and you
that was just.
Good morning to you.
That was just sad. Then look how cool we are, sketch. This look at this too. This is the debate stage. How many seats is that? There's gonna be what, like 80 people there, maybe?
Yeah, it's super small.
Yeah. All right. Well.
So, I mean, what's really interesting about this whole thing? I mean, people will have a chance to hear what people that are not Trump think, but at the same time, Trump is got so much of the vote already that it's kind of, what's the point? I don't know.
Well,
I mean, not that I want Trump to be, the nominee, but
these people are probably just doing it for fame or because they want to get a anchor job somewhere as a news reporter, or they want to push themselves to write a book. I don't know. I mean, this is all a moneymaker. It's not about politics. It's not about doing anything or accomplishing anything. It's just about playing to the base and trying to secure where their income comes from. That's all it is.
Right.
It's really not even. It's really one of those things where it's like, it's just sad. It's like, this should be about discussing issues, and it's not. It's about where's our money coming from.
Right.
That's why they do it like it's a football game, not like it's a political debate. These are the people coming up. This is what they're going to talk about. And it's not going to be all lies and craziness like it was last time. Oh, wait, no, exactly. It probably is. Sorry.
Good morning. I did know, but nobody can reveal like Bill Hemmer. You did a great job.
Well, if I told you we rehearsed it, would you believe me?
No, you don't never need to rehearse.
So show us the stage. What do you got out there?
Okay, well, this is where the moderators will be sitting. Stuart Varney gets the center seat because he will be the thorn between two roses.
Okay. So now we know how stupid Fox thinks its viewers are. This is a desk. This chair is in the center of the desk. Stuart will be sitting in this chair.
Yeah, I don't want to stay tuned in while they explain furniture to us.
The women will be sitting to either side of Stewart because they're inferior, because they don't have penises. Welcome to Fox News. Oh man, that's hilarious. Okay, sorry. Well, done with that. I just wanted. We unfortunately won't be covering it tonight. We don't have time, but maybe the next one. We'll see if we have time to cover it live. Part of it is, frankly, we don't care, and we don't really have time to fact check them in real time because we'd be here all night.
We don't have any staff, so that would just be us pulling an all-nighter looking up.
Oh
stupid
God.
shit.
Is the environment really getting colder? No. What's the difference between weather and climate? No shit. Anyway, speaking of the guy who's the climate denier, Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy was also on Fox News on Sunday, getting ready, getting psyched for the debate, and they had some voter responses to what voters think about him, and we're gonna go through it real quick. It's good stuff.
All right.
What do the voters think about Vivek? This is the Young Turk.
Commanding lead. I mean, at 60% now. Many analysts say everybody else is just sort of playing for second place. You said you would not accept the vice presidential spot. So what's the point of your campaign now?
So look, the core focus for me, Shannon, is to take the America First agenda even further than Donald Trump did, but to reunite this country in the process.
One recent opinion piece puts it this way. Of all the descriptors attached to Vivek Ramaswamy, the 38-year-old political tyro enjoying a bizarre surge in the Republican primary race for second place, the most common one seems to be annoying. Why do you think, as more people have gotten to know you, your unfavorables are up too?
The reality is many people are annoyed by my rise and believe that a 38-year-old is too young to be U.S. president. The fact of the matter is Thomas Jefferson was 33 years old when he...
Okay, so many things there. Oh, you could tell that hurt. Because he's heard that before. Oh, I guarantee you, all through high school and college. You were so freaking annoying, Vivek. He is annoying.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is, he had to spin it. Well, it's not that I am annoying. They're annoyed at my success. That's what it is. They're annoyed at my rise. Not me as a human being.
I don't know. It's probably just you as a human being.
And
people aren't paying that much attention to your success. They're just paying attention to the fact that they find you annoying.
right. And I'm young for running for president. And people forget Thomas Jefferson was 33. Yeah, back when life expectancy was about 40 years old.
Right.
So, great comparison there, buddy. I want to see some more of this. What else did the people say? Let's see if they go into more. Come on, internet.
The U.S. Declaration of Independence.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired
Oh.
Jetta here, and Vivek Ramaswamy sure likes to hear himself.
So this is the Young Turks. This is one of their guys. Let's see if I'll skip ahead here in a second. But yeah, man, Vivek. He cracks me up. Let's see what we got. I'm gonna skip ahead here a little bit. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, let's go back. All right.
Seems like I was about to say that he likes to hear himself talk, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Thomas Jefferson was 33 years old when he wrote the U.S. Declaration
Oh.
of Independence, and he did invent the swivel chair. What the pieces of trivia have to do with Vivek's pathetic showing at the polls is unclear, though.
It will take someone whose best days ahead are still yet ahead in life to see a country whose best days are still yet ahead of itself.
Ramaswamy joined Fox host Shannon Bream on Sunday for what he
fucking
thought was
Hallmark
going
card
to
did
be a
that come
walk-on-the-park
from?
interview.
I don't know.
But instead, he ran straight into a buzzsaw. Bream started breaking it down for her delusional guest. She confronted him about his limp poll numbers, and he got really defensive over it.
Oh,
Vivek
man.
has been one of Fox's favorites, but he's behind the 8-ball now, and his appeal is fading. Shannon
Listen.
Bream wanted to know what the point of his campaign was now. She brought up the fact that the guy with 91 criminal charges who's facing life in prison is way ahead of him.
Yeah, that's a good
Vivek
point.
Can't even come in second fiddle. He has even fallen behind floundering Ron DeSantis.
And I am in this race because
All right, go
I
ahead.
think I am the single best positioned candidate to do it. And even though we've taken criticisms from basically nearly every other candidate that's been threatened by my rise, I'm not running against any of them. I am running for this country. That's the mission we're guided by.
Okay.
All right. So, I mean, that's the thing I love about him is it's the density of the guy's mind, right? Voters think you're annoying. That's because I'm so awesome. My rise is so great. I'm so young. I've got all my best years. I'm the best. I'm going to do better than everybody else. I'm the greatest.
The irony is that the voters find him annoying, and his response to it is annoying.
Right. That's the fucking...
It's an annoying response. His response is to annoy the shit out of the people who say he's annoying as shit. Well, I guess his strategy is consistent, to say the least.
Right. Oh, man. Well, I think you're irritating.
Man, you're so whiny. You're like, I'm not whiny.
Right. Right. It's... Well, but it's almost like, too, it's like... You kind of wonder, is it like conscious even? Because it's like, it'd be like, hey, you're irritating. Oh, yeah? Is this irritating? Is this irritating? It's like... Anyway, I think Vivek's, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they're all cooked. Trump's gonna, the guy's been twice impeached. He's got 91 indictments, or 91 charges, 4 indictments. We're not going to cover it today, but what was New York? They just ruled against him in a summary judgment. So he can't do business in New York at all anymore. And that includes his kids that worked for him. I don't know if Ivanka was included, but I know Don and Eric are. So they lost all their business licenses. And if they lost them in New York, no one else is going to want to do business. It's going to be hard to find any other state that's going to want to recognize him, or any other company that's want to be like, well, fuck it. You can't even do business in New York. You guys can't get loans. Why are we? Yeah. So it's pretty much the end of that. But yeah, we'll see. We're still waiting to see if he owes money. But God. So that'll be fun tonight, everybody. Enjoy it. We might cover what they talked about a little bit next week, but oh man. But moving on to Canada. Oh, Canada. Did you hear about this? The Canadian Parliament had Zelensky from Ukraine over, because the Ukraine's still at war with the Russians. And they made a kind of a little bit of what you might call a boo-boo with Zelensky. So we're going to watch it real quick. This is, hang on. This is WION News. I don't know who they are, but I just stole this from them because they covered it pretty well.
The Speaker of Canada's House of Commons has apologized for praising a Second World War veteran who fought for the Nazis. And this comes 2 days earlier. Speaker Anthony Rota had recognized 98-year-old Yaroslav Hunka as a Ukrainian hero before the Canadian Parliament. Yaroslav served in the Second World War. He was honored by the Canadian lawmakers in front of the visiting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. And following Zelensky's remarks to the House of Commons on Friday, Speaker Rota acknowledged Yaroslav, who was seated in the gallery. Rota praised him for fighting for Ukrainian independence against the Russians. Yaroslav also received questions from the lawmakers.
I love that. So, it's a couple things. He was the SS Waffen division. So we're talking about gross war crimes and human violations against civilians. We're talking about capturing Jews and throwing them on trains kind of shit.
So you see him stand in the audience looking all emotional and sort of distraught. And I can only imagine, because what's running through his head is, oh God, if they actually realize I might die right here.
Well, you'd think they would realize because they're honoring for fighting the Russians in World War II. And at no point does anybody in the Canadian Parliament go, wait a minute, who were the Russians fighting in World War II? Oh, yeah, the Nazis. This would have been one, like, if you got this wrong in a middle school test, right? If you were fighting against the Russians in World War II, who were you fighting for? Hitler.
Oh boy. I mean, I've been embarrassed a lot of times in my life, but I am not sure I could think of anything that would make me feel more embarrassed than that. You know what I mean? Like, that's...
Well, you know...
Oh boy.
Well, apparently Poland has come out and said, hey, we want this guy extradited to be tried for war crimes. He's 98, so, but it's like, still, they should.
It's probably more the point of it than anything, you know?
Yeah. But it's like, yeah, the guy's been hiding out in Canada all this time. God.
And then the Canadians find him and honor him.
Right, they give him a standing ovation. But now here's the deal. So Putin, one of his initial excuses for invading Ukraine is we're fighting Nazis in Ukraine. And there are groups of Nazis in Ukraine. There are. It's a problem. It's been a problem since World War II. Now, in fact, Zelensky has to, one of the groups, the military groups he's working with, is a Nazi group. But that's what happens in war. Sometimes you got to side with people you'd normally be enemies with, right? So that's what's part of what's going on. So Putin, they're similar. They're both authoritarian dickheads. But anyway, Putin is now, I'm going to get that screwed up all day. Putin is now going to, and I'm sure he's already started, go on the news and have everybody say, look, see, the US and Canada and Ukraine are all Nazi supporters. They're the real enemy. They hate Jews. They're the real racists. They're the real evil party. Right? And now he's got more evidence. See, look, here they are giving a standing ovation to a 98-year-old Nazi who worked for the SS, which means he was, blood and soil Nazi. A hardcore Nazi. So, I mean, it just...
So, I guess I can only speak for myself. When abroad, and people have asked if I was Canadian or American, but kind of happy just to let them think I was Canadian because they're usually more popular than us. But I definitely want to make sure I know what table I'm at, and I make it known what table I'm at right now because I'm pretty sure for the first time the U.S. is the more popular kid than the Canadian.
Yeah, it could be.
Maybe for the first time ever.
Could be. Well, let's watch a little bit more of this because it's just how do you honor somebody and then without doing at least a background check?
And in a statement issued later, Rota took responsibility for what was characterized as an oversight, calling the initiative entirely his own, conveying his deepest apologies to the Jewish communities. Rota said that he has now become more aware of information which causes him to regret his decision.
Yeah, no shit.
The Canadian Parliament honoring a former Nazi fighter, that in front of the Ukrainian president, is significant, given that the Russian officials have drawn parallels between its war in Ukraine with the struggle against Nazis during World War II.
And they gave him 2 standing ovations. He got 2 standing ovations.
I can't believe that old man didn't have a heart attack right then and there. I'd be thinking that this was some sick joke and it was how I was going to die because they just like, you know, like I was found and they put me in this place and they're all just going to turn guns on me and shoot me. Like, I'm sure, I can't believe we didn't have a heart attack.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he's sitting at part of it. I'll bet you he was up there thinking, they are so stupid. If they only knew. No wonder I'm the master race. That's what he was probably thinking.
You think? Maybe.
I think he thought he got away with it. Well, and so far he has. Nobody's extraditing him. Nothing's happened yet. Well, dude, if I was the parliamentarian that invited him, I would be doing everything in my power right now to like get that man in fucking shackles and put him on a plane. Send him to The Hague.
How can it be to shackle a 98-year-old?
Well, it can't. Well, but you have to have probable cause and all that. But it's like, no, dude, let's extradite him and get him to The Hague to stand trial. In fact, if it, because I'm cold-blooded, if it were me, I'd be like, what if that plane accidentally landed in Jerusalem? we can let the Israelis deal with it.
I just can't help but feel like, I mean, maybe he really is that cocky, but I would just be thinking, that guy's he had to be sweating bullets up there. Like,
I think he's 98. I don't think he gives a shit anymore.
I mean, yeah, at this point, I mean, even if he goes on trial and whatever, like, probably die before it's over, you know? Like,
yeah, he's almost 100 years old. He's gotten away with it for almost 80 years, 78 years.
Yeah.
He's gotten away with this since he was 20 years old. So, I mean, do you think he really gives a shit at this point? He's already lived his life. He's probably only got a few good years left.
I don't know, but at a certain point in time, if a person's been on the run and you know, hiding out for that long, and then suddenly, like, you're going to be getting all this public recognition, wouldn't you be a little concerned that that was actually kind of accidentally, like,
The only reason I think no is because he could have turned down the parliament and said, no, I don't want to go. I would have. If we're on the run. But
yeah, but it might be one of those things where it's like, oh God, but maybe I draw more. Maybe I draw like some type of attention to myself if I don't. Like, oh, why wouldn't he want to do
well,
that?
why would you look up somebody who's not even going to show up? You're more likely to look up somebody who's going to show up. But yeah, that was amazing.
I mean, that's true. They didn't look up the person who was going to show up either. So I don't know. All bets are off at that point.
Yeah, well, that was
I
crazy.
guess I'm trying to place myself inside of all of the people's brains, his and the people at Parliament, to try to figure out what they're all thinking. And quite frankly, I don't know. I give up. I don't know what any of them are thinking.
Well, you know, anybody can get tricked. It happens. And so that'll segue to our next interesting thing. So last week, everybody reported on the auto workers strikes, the United Auto Workers. And I'm going to show you a clip of one such show that reported on it right here. And they reported on what NBC or CNBC reported on. So here we go.
UAW panel. Hi, Phil.
Scott, we have received some information from a source familiar with the UAW's plans for the plants that it will plan on striking come midnight tonight if they do not reach an agreement with Ford, GM, and Stellantis. And this is our understanding of the plants that will be announced tonight. 10 o'clock is when we will get the official announcement from the UAW. Let's start first off with General Motors, Romulus Powertrain, Toledo, Ohio Propulsion, and the Marion Metal Plant in Indiana. For Ford, it's our understanding that the UAW plans to strike at the Livonia Transmission Plant, Lima, Ohio Engine Plant, and the Cleveland Engine Plant. And finally, for Stellantis, we understand that the UAW will walk out at the Kokomo Transmission Plant in Kokomo, Indiana, and the Dundee Engine Plant. We should stress, we have reached out to the UAW. for confirmation that this is, in fact, is the plan. We have not heard
see,
back.
look at the prices. Man.
Yeah, I was really eager to see what the prices on those stocks were doing as it was glancing down. I was like, oh, what's that stock doing right now? Because
it's not doing. I mean, you're talking about. So look at those idiots. Reported that they were going to strike at those plants. Guess what, folks? They didn't strike at any of those plants. Nope. Something else magical happened. And give me 1 second. I will get it up. Hang on 1 second, everybody.
The big three automakers and the corporate media were effectively fooled by the striking United Auto Workers. So to understand how, here's the background on everything you need to know on how this strike works. So the unionized workers can basically strike at some plants while keeping other plants open. And this is actually a really great strategy because it helps the United Auto Workers maintain and save some of the resources in their strike fund, helps the strike fund last longer. Now, this tactic also allows the union strike fund to not only last longer, but keep the big three auto companies guessing which plants and which factories they're planning on striking at. Obviously, they're not going to know ahead of time unless they're going to be dumb enough to just believe what is put out on social media ahead of time, and that's exactly what happened. The companies, meanwhile, according to Daniel Boguslaw over at The Intercept, who has the best name I've ever read in a byline, the companies, meanwhile, sought to anticipate precisely which plants would be struck and reorganize production and distribution to minimize losses. The big three guessed badly. So mostly because of the fact that the workers cleverly tricked the employers with the use of social media. So in the run-up to the strike, UAW members at auto plants from Georgia to Tennessee to Ohio took to Facebook and Twitter to share accounts of partial plant closures and faulty information from plant managers, leading to chaos on shop floors across the country.
So they tricked everybody.
Information on social media.
Because they knew if the automakers, right, if the executives knew where they were going to strike, they just redistribute resources so they could, which frankly, that's the financial officer's job, right? The chief financial officer is to minimize risk and loss. So that guy was probably scrambling, going, okay, if they shut down these three plants, how can I minimize the loss to the company, right? And so that's what he did, is he redistributed all those goods, and then they shut down a different three plants.
I mean, that's pretty brilliant, honestly.
Well, because the whole point of a strike is to make it hurt, right, for the employer. So the employer bends to your will, to your agreement, right, to what you're asking for. But yep, they tricked everybody. They tricked us. They tricked, well, the media, and then they tricked us. But they got everybody looking left while they were moving right.
Good job, man. Good job, guys.
I mean, I can't give them any more points than that. It's bravo, UAW. Well played, sirs. Well played. I think that's just awesome. So yeah, they really screwed over with that strike over the last week or so. It's been about a week. Yeah, they really screwed over the Ford and Stellantis and GM.
And it's funny because the media, you know, it just kind of shows that the media is like, oh, we have a source, when really they're not even really checking up on who their source is or how they're getting their information either before they report it. It's just, they're just like getting something from social media and going with it as if it's fact, which I don't know. Isn't that what we teach high school students, right? Like,
right.
You know, you use, if you're writing research paper, you can't use these kinds of sources because there's a really, really heavy amount of hearsay in there. It could just be just people spouting stuff off, and it might not be real, right? Like that's kind of one of the
right.
Initial research, writing, high school, beginning college types of lessons.
Well, what they did was they had their members, and the members they knew who were, got to be on board, say, hey, go on Facebook, go on Twitter, and say, hey, rumor is this, or rumor is that, or I heard this, or so-and-so told me that, right? Even though it's all bullshit, right? Because they're not going to believe the union, because the union's not going to tell anybody where they're going to strike until they do it, right? But they'll believe, oh, well, the workers are hearing this, or I saw this on so-and-so's social media, or blah, 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 right? So I could see where you'd fall for that. But the other thing about it is this, which I thought was so funny, is we did this clip last week where we watched the CEO of GM, who makes, $29 million a year, right? We did a whole big joke about she makes over $14,000 an hour. And her whole excuse was, well, that's based on the performance of the company and leadership and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, all right, you're the CEO. Now go to the board and tell them, hey, under my leadership, we've got massive strikes. We've taken massive losses over the last week. And oh, by the way, I got my ass tricked because a bunch of workers posted some shit on Facebook. How's the performance looking now?
Honestly, I gotta say though, okay, so on one hand, I agree with you that it might be kind of easy to be tricked in that way, but I feel like if you are the CEO or somebody researching for the media, and you're seeing that all these workers are just saying this stuff on Facebook, wouldn't you stop and say, this is kind of interesting. Why would these people, right before a strike, be all advertising where the strikes are going to happen before they happen? Why would they do that?
Because people are stupid. But I would sit there and say, people don't know. But I would sit there and say, if you're a responsible CFO, you might sit there and go, well, wait a minute. We start moving a lot of resources over here. We make that a much
more vulnerable over here.
Right. We make that a much more attractive target. And what's to stop them from changing? Right. So if you close, oh, bless you. So if you close plant A, right? If we think they're going to close plant A, so we move our resources and a lot of our distribution over to plant B, right? Well, of course the workers are going to know it because they're going to have to do it. So the union, bless you, gosh.
I don't know what got me.
Oh yeah. But the workers are going to know, so the union's going to know. Right? So now if I'm the union, why don't I go, well, wait a minute. It's going to hurt more if we close plant B now. After they did all this work to move everything over there. If I was the CFO, I would make that argument that maybe we should just wait and then be ready to respond.
We try to get ahead of them. Maybe we actually play into their hand.
Well, right. Or maybe we give them a better target. Right. But that's me putting on my black hat as the fuck the worker CFO, right? Just kind of the CFO's job. But
listen, I was trying to put on all of the hats in that last clip with the Nazi and I was trying to wear all the freaking hats, man, and I was still struggling. So
well, at the end of the day, the hat to wear is follow the evidence. Don't jump ahead of yourself, because that's when mistakes are getting made. Double check your sources.
And be careful when believing rumors on social media.
Well, speaking of people who believe rumors on social media, so Trump is leading in the polls, right? and he's going to smoke the other. So tonight's debate's just going to be the sound of one hand clapping. It's just going to be a Republican circle jerk. But I saw this clip, and I thought it'd be interesting. This is the damage report, and I think this is Francesca Fiorentini, and this is a Trump supporter at a Trump rally, and she said something I thought was pretty amazing, because they asked her why she supports Trump. So here this, come on, baby. Here we go. So here this woman is. We're going to watch her real quick.
What is Trump, under his policies, how did it benefit your life? Are you work? Are you retired? I mean,
no, I'm disabled. I have a broken plate in my back. And it really bummed me because during COVID, I was supposed to get my third surgery and have it fixed. And when the doctor, a very big specialist, went to fix it, he said, "Where's your Medicaid?" I said, "What do you mean, where's my Medicaid?" "Well, they took my Medicaid. So I'm coming up here hoping I can get my surgery done."
Well, it's interesting, right?
Okay, so before Francesca jumps into this, so she's going there to support Trump, to vote for Trump, because she wants to get, because they took her Medicaid. When did they take it? During COVID, during 2020? 2021-ish?
And who was the president then?
Who was the president in 2020?
Wait, that must have been what?
No, that was Obama. It was Obama. And fucking no, it was Donald Trump. And I just want to go over this real quick for everybody, so we can all get on the same page. This is just a quick thing. I'm not going to go crazy here. But this is just a quick article from the Center on Budget Policy. So this is the CBPP, sorry. And this is just Medicaid Basics, right? So started in 65. Medicaid in 2018 covered 97 million low-income Americans. Okay? I want you to factor in, there's 330-something million Americans, so almost 1 out of 3. Right? So this is an important program. Okay? These people wouldn't have health care otherwise. And of those people, it served 32 million children, 28 million adults, 6 million seniors, 9 million people with disabilities, blah, blah, blah. So these are the people it served versus, and 97 is the total that they cover. Children are 2/5, right? So that 28 or that 32 million is a big number, right? So 40% is children. So about 40 million children are covered. All right. So it goes into how they do the enrollment versus spending. It's mostly children enrolled, but most of the spending goes to adults, low-income adults. And then, older people, blind, disabled people. It's because children don't get sick or life-threatening illnesses as often. But I want to go through down to here. So this, can you see this chart okay?
Yeah.
So these yellow states, or all Republican states, did not expand Medicaid. Right? So they're doing the absolute minimum. The striped ones are about to implement it, Montana and Oklahoma. All the blue states, most of which are Democrat, did expand it. They took the extra money, but they had to go through certain restrictions. Now, the thing to understand about that is this. So Medicaid, the government itself issues the money, right? And then it issues the money to each state based on the population, expected recipients, things like that, right? The state gets the money, but it has to use it in accordance with what the government says, right? With the federal government. The state government has to do that. You can't use our money in way just in however you want. You have to use it specifically these ways. Well, what happened to her is they changed the system and she got kicked off it because she's in one of those yellow states. And we're going to go back to Francesca, who's going to explain who and how the system was changed. So we'll have Francesca explain it here real quick.
Oh, where is my Medicaid? I want to get my surgery done, and she's hoping that she can get it. That's a pretty concrete wish. Sadly, a wish that will not be granted by Donald Trump, even though on the campaign trail back in 2015, you guys remember, this is what endeared him to a lot of people in the first place. He says, I was the first and only potential GOP candidate to state there will be no cuts to Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. Huckabee copied me. But that, of course, was a complete lie, because you're a Republican, bro, and you have to get on board with cutting any kind of service that helps people. So again, in 2020, his budget proposal aimed to spend $1.5 trillion less on Medicaid instead of allocating $1.2 trillion in a block grant program to states, $25 billion less on Social Security, $845 billion less on Medicare. And the intention was to cut Medicaid and Social Security. That's according to Vox. And this, again, was back in 2020. Trump administration unveils a major shift in Medicaid, which allows states to cap a portion of spending for the safety net program, a change likely to diminish the number of people receiving health benefits from it.
So what happened is if you live in one of those Republican states, they are now allowed to cap the amount of money and cut people off. And they did. Because I know that was happened here in Oregon. There was some brief discussion from the Republicans here. And since this is a predominantly Democratic state, right? Or, I mean, it's a democratically dominated House and Senate here. The Democrats basically said, no, we're just going to leave it as it is. Right?
Right.
We spent all this money setting up this Medicaid program called Oregon Health Share. We're not freaking changing it. Right? It's working. Right? But in states like Tennessee, they cut hundreds of thousands of people. And she was probably one of those people. That woman voting for Trump. So, okay, we're back. We're refreshed. We got water and tea. So, we were talking about Republican cuts. Now, right now, there's a debate about shutting down the government. It's all the Republicans want to do it. There was already a deal during the last potential shutdown between Biden and McCarthy, who's the House Speaker, and McConnell in the Senate. And they cut a deal that, hey, to prevent this going forward, we're going to agree on this sort of budget. And they did. And there were some cuts to that that I disagree with, but that's what it was. Well, now the Republicans in the House, McCarthy is reneging because, as you remember, when he got elected, he had to go through 15 something different votes, and then he gave up all of his power to basically the Freedom Caucus, which is the Trump supporters, the MAGA nut jobs, and they can do what's called a vote of no confidence and have him removed at any time if they don't like what he's doing. And so they're threatening to do that. So now he is trying to slow this down. And so he's proposed a bunch of new cuts. And this is Chris Hayes on MSNBC on his show All In. And he's going to list the cuts that the McCarthy is promoting, just so you get a sense of what Republicans' agenda is.
And there's our favorite lady there.
MTG.
Continues and approaches some kind of deadline. It's helpful to understand that there's a reason why this is such favorable terrain for Republicans and why it is so dangerous for all of us. It's a basic public opinion problem. When you ask the public, and this is true for decades, as long as I've been covering politics, when you ask the public generally in the abstract, is the federal government spending too much? You tend to get a resounding yes. Recent poll, for example, found 60% of U.S. adults said, yes, we are spending too much. But then when you ask people about specific programs, you get a very different answer. In the exact same poll, 65% said there too little spending on education. 63% said there's too little spending on healthcare. 62% say the same on Social Security. Infrastructure. 59% say the same on assistance to the poor. 58% on Medicare.
People don't actually want spending cuts. They like these programs. In fact, they want to spend more on them. And so, of course, what Republicans have somewhat successfully engineered in this debt ceiling fight is a kind of national debate around the broad idea of spending too much, as opposed to a debate about cutting specific things. Last month, for example, they passed this ridiculous bill proposing just that, right? Cutting federal discretionary spending to the level of the last fiscal year, imposing an arbitrary overall 1% cap on growth, all of it devoid of specifics, right? These are just top lines, numbers. And now the negotiations on those all-important details are happening behind closed doors, which also favors them because they don't have to defend individual cuts. Now they have to decide, well, what are we actually going to cut to get those nice round numbers? And the items on the chopping block really tell you how deranged this entire enterprise is. Listen to me here. Republicans reportedly want to cut the vaccine development program. $5 billion of funding intended for the next generation of coronavirus vaccines and treatments. The program, called Project NextGen, aims to fund the development of new vaccines that could potentially offer longer-lasting protection against a wider array of coronavirus variants or better defense against infections. It also intends to fund...
So they want to cut a program to prevent another pandemic.
I'm going to guess we're maybe rolling the die on the idea that there won't be another pandemic that relates to coronavirus in general.
Well, because as we all know, the coronavirus was made by the Chinese to kill Jews and whites. Or no, by the Jews to kill white people. Sorry. I got that confused there for a second. We covered that with Robert Kennedy. God, he's such a nightmare.
I forgot that. Okay.
That was.
I can't keep straight what he was trying to say, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Lacey doesn't have a index of all the ridiculous shit we cover.
I really do not. Listen.
It's too much.
I try really hard to put myself into the brains of what these crazy people are thinking. I'm like, okay, so if on some other planet I'm suddenly inside of this person, what the hell am I thinking? And, you know, I try, but I don't come up with a lot.
Well, it's just one of those things where it's like, if you were to ask me, like, if this were like a household and we were family planning, you're like, well, let's cut the spending on the treatment to cure Timmy's tuberculosis. I'd be like, no, that's one of those non-cuttable items from the budget. I'm sorry. You know, we're not going to cut, you know, medical help for the kids. That's not going to happen.
So little Marie should get to keep her inhaler? We're not cutting her inhaler and sending her to gym class?
Let's get her the generic inhaler. It'll save us an extra $5 a month.
I have an idea. We'll get her the inhaler container.
Right.
We'll just cut the insert, the little tank of bang inside of it, you know?
Yeah, we'll just put a vape inside of it or something instead.
Right.
All right, let's go with some more of this. This is just fucking nuts to me. Cutting vaccine research on a deadly virus. Okay, that's what.
This is going to get stupider before it gets less stupid.
Oh no, it just gets stupider.
On the development of pan-coronavirus vaccines, which would protect against different coronaviruses and new monoclonal antibody treatments. This is a program that builds on Donald Trump's single, unambiguous success, Operation Warp Speed, that helped to develop the COVID vaccines in record time. The vaccines saved 20 million lives around the world just in their first year. The Republican negotiators have essentially taken 85% of the budget off the table, including things like defense spending and Social Security. Leaves a pretty small portion left to work with. And again, we can't forget the key context here. Over the past couple of years, the American right and the Republican Party have collapsed into a vortex of anti-vaccine nonsense that is dangerous, disastrous, and disconnected from reality. They have decided the single greatest achievement of the Trump presidency, perhaps the greatest health intervention of our time, was actually some sort of malevolent plot. And that anti-vax movement is an outgrowth of the insane, neurotic universe of extremely online conservatives who spend all day slinging disinformation and offensive.
So that's, I mean, that's part of it. And it's such an obvious thing. Hang on. I'm having a little technical problem there. Anyway, it's not just that, though. I mean, I don't think he gets into it too much in here, but there's a huge list of cuts that are just ridiculous. Like, they want to cut Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. They want to cut entitlements for the poor, SNAP, CHIP, WIC, right? Things we're not going to cut, the military. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, it's literally like if you had two households, right? And in one, the kids got, tutoring and went to regular school and were playing sports, and mom and dad everybody had health insurance and the house was insured and all that stuff. You'd be like, okay, that's just, a normal, responsible family, right? And then their neighbors, the kids don't go to school. They get shitty homeschool at best, right? They have no medical care, but dad has a Ferrari and a whole arsenal of guns. You'd be like, that guy's a dick. It's not a responsible adult.
Right.
But that's kind of what's happening. I mean, that's kind of the country we've become. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Oh, man. Well, let me do this. We're going to take a quick pause here. Let me see if I can look up the whole cut thing, because I thought I had it. Man, cuts for shutdown. Safety net, here it was. Okay, so let's do this. So, yeah, so just to get sort of a sense of the cuts, here's the Washington Post on the shutdown, and I just want to skip down here. The article title, just so everybody has, is Betting to the Right, McCarthy pushes safety net cuts to shut down battle. Going down a little bit here, it looks like, where was it? Up to, here we go. Okay, so it appears to translate into taking more than $150 billion per year out of part of the budget that funds childcare, education, subsidies, medical research, and hundreds of additional federal operations. The bottom line is we're singularly focused right now on achieving our conservative objectives. Trying to court the votes of the far-right lawmakers, huge savings, despite the fact that you've had record inflation under this administration, which was caused by what? By coming out of COVID by Trump. So, I mean, this is all, I mean, they're talking about cutting education. Can you cut education anymore? I mean, kids don't even get fucking...
Well, they sure love to try.
Yeah, no kidding. They want you as stupid as possible. But anyway, yeah, you should read that article. But man, I mean, that just gives you a sense of where we're at. The whole thing. But it's led to some infighting among Republicans, because there are some Republicans who aren't stupid that know this is unpopular. Right? And what do? They gotta get up there and go, well, no, don't say the quiet part out loud, everybody. It's not popular. People don't like it when you take their shit away. Especially shit they're paying for. So here's the David Packman show. We've covered him before. We're also going to cover the Majority Report. We should start paying them royalties as often as we use them. Anyway, so David Packman's going to cover some of the infighting here.
Disarray, and this is one of my favorite videos of the last few months. Radical and repugnant, reactionary Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz went on Maria Bartiromo's show. Maria Bartiromo is one of the most explosively pro-Trump suck-ups on Fox News. And she went into a monologue rant about how Republicans are doing all this different stuff or whatever. Gates didn't like it. They are eating themselves. This is just the best. Matt Gaetz attacks Maria Bartiromo for her monologue. Watch Maria Bartiromo's face during this insanity. You love to see it, like watching little kids argue.
Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz. Congressman, thank you very much for being here this morning.
Well, thank you. I'm glad I get to respond to your monologue, because if you're saying that I'm standing in the way of all the Republican wins, I'd love you to enumerate them. Watching my friend and mentor Jim Jordan, it was quite painful, because he started.
By the way, if your friend and mentor is Jim Jordan, that's a scary thing.
By saying we should only pick one fight, the border. But then as the interview went on, he said, well, we should pick a second fight, Jack Smith. And by the time the interview rounded out, he was saying that we shouldn't be funding Ukraine without a plan. And yet the very continuing resolution that you and Jim Jordan seem to be for continues to have $300 million more for Ukraine. So I think we ought to fight on all fronts. I think the border is very important. And the best way for us to advance the Republican border policies is to pass the Department of Homeland Security Appropriations Bill, do that along with veterans, defense, ag, state and foreign ops. We'll have 73% of the discretionary budget funded. And if, the Department of Labor and Education have to shut down for a few days as we get our appropriations in line, that's certainly not something that is optimal, but I think it's better than continuing on the current path we are to America's financial ruin.
Congressman, I understand, and that is why you are on this program this morning, because I want to give you a fair shot, and I want to get you heard. So tell me why you are threatening Speaker McCarthy and trying to shut down this government at a time that the Republicans have finally gotten some upper hands here in terms of wins, able to investigate President Biden on what looks like bribery.
Yeah, we don't put our pencils down in the investigation of President Biden during a shutdown, so the premise is false. Second, if Kevin McCarthy was actually serious about pursuing the Bidens, he would have sent Hunter Biden a subpoena by now. That's how you know this is sort of failure theater that you're observing. In the first year of Democrat control of the country.
He's not wrong, by the way. The entire failed, farcical, attempted investigation of Joe Biden is complete failure theater. He's correct.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. They can't do a fucking thing right. Even a villainous thing they can't do right. No, I swear.
It's getting stupider and stupider, really.
I swear, they're like the mobsters in the Bugs Bunny cartoon. I mean, it's like you guys are focused too much on the rabbit. You should be focused on committing crime. But it's funny to me because it's like, because she's sitting there going, you're going to shut down the government. You're going to make the entire party look bad. You're going to potentially oust the speaker. We have no real power upper hand, but now we're sort of kind of getting a fake investigation into Biden, which might sort of make us look good. And now you're going to flip all that work, right? And make us look like idiots again. And, well, but it's better than, not. I mean, that's basically his answer, dude. And it's so funny to me because it's like, if you ever watch like the Nature Channel, and it's like, yeah, if I see two cougars ripping apart a gazelle, I'm kind of like, eh. But if I But if I see a spider and a scorpion or a centipede going at it, I'm all in, man. I want to see the end of that fight. And that's what this is. This is a centipede and the spider going at it. And I'm like, I want to see who wins. So we're going to watch Sam Cedar. And they're going to go through some of the same shit about the Republican infighting. Because that was just one little taste of it. It's gotten fun. So here's Sam Cedar on the Majority Report with Emma Vigeland. And they're going to talk about this real quick. So he's going to go into this about Fox News not being, I think this is the Fox morning show, Fox and Friends, not being real thrilled with a lot of this.
That they don't even realize how bad they look to even ostensibly normal Republicans, of course, this is still far to the right of just normal human beings. So here they are talking. It's rare you see Kilmeade get this hot under the collar about the Republican Party.
You can't just focus on this. You focus on trying to get a continuing resolution to finally get a budget going. For some reason, you guys didn't get your appropriations bills done. So now they want a continuing resolution. A lot of conservatives got together like Scott Perry, Chip Roy, and the speaker, and they came up with what they thought was a CR, but it failed because of people like Matt Rosendale. Listen to why.
I've said for months now that I will not support any continuing resolution. That is merely an extension of Nancy Pelosi's spending and Joe Biden's policies that we voted against. Republicans voted against for the last 2 years. We were assured, like Kevin McCarthy, this Congress is going to be different. Congress needs to do their job. They need to pass the 12 appropriation bills. They need to get the non-defense discretionary spending reduced to $1.471 trillion.
Pause it for 1 second. I just want to remind everyone that Nancy Pelosi is no longer in the leadership of the House. She's not Speaker of the House. She's not even minority leader.
But the continuing resolution would continue, like the stench of Pelosi, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the continuing resolution would shape a budget that was from the year prior.
Anyway, it's just stupid shit, right? My first thought always is like, I see a guy like that, I'm like, if you come up to me and you've got that haircut, I'm already going to start talking to you like you're an idiot. I mean, if you make sounds like this with a haircut like that, I'm going to sit there and go, You never know. I mean, I know guys with that accent who are Rhodes Scholars, but but they don't cut their hair like that.
So it's like a double stereotype.
Right. They have a stylist. They look good. But no, but I mean the idea that one, they're making fun of the fact that he didn't know who the speaker was. Right?
I mean,
his party's in power and he didn't seem to be aware of that.
that feels like that should have been kind of an easy one to get right, but
Yeah, who's your boss again? That guy. No, that guy was your boss. Who's your current boss? That guy retired. Well, I just know we got to get the 12 resolution. Yeah. And they keep saying, when they say cut discretionary spending, what they're talking about is education, Social Security, things like that. I mean, it's just, they never ever, like they said earlier, they never specify, because if they specify, you'll get pissed. Right?
Right. So they have to kind of do the smoke and mirrors thing. They have to make it sound mysterious.
Right.
Discretionary, extra stuff. Yeah, extra stuff. All right, as long as they're cutting the extra stuff.
Right.
What extra stuff? You don't know. They didn't tell you.
No, try that with your spouse when you guys are living together. Like, honey, I think we need to cut our discretionary spending by 10%. They'd probably be like, well, depending on how clever your spouse is, they'd probably be like,
the next thing you know,
whatever. But then
find out you don't have any gas in your tank. And,
right.
Nobody's paid the internet bill, and the electric's not getting paid. Yeah, discretionary.
Discretionary. What is this? I only have $5 I can spend on lunch per day. What is this shit? God, it just kills me. But that's kind of what's going on. We'll watch some more because Fox gets really, really uncomfortable by this whole situation. Kilmeade does especially.
But they had ample opportunity to work on it.
Exactly.
They haven't.
Dan Bishop, Ken Buck, and Matt Rosendale voted no, so you guys failed, and now moderates are getting together with Democrats, and they might do something and leave you guys out.
Well, you just named some of my best friends, Brian. I'm a conservative as well, but I'm also in House leadership, okay? I recognize the reality of the math, and Matt Rosendale, he's not wrong. He's correct. We do need to do our approach bills, but doing a CR will allow us the necessary time to do that so that we can have good, thoughtful, good stewardship for the taxpayer.
But he knows that, doesn't he? So what's the point of blowing up your continuing resolution? It's you and Chip Roy who we blew up. What's the point?
Yeah, well, we're having some intense fellowship behind the curtain, okay? But we have a slim margin, all right? This is the reality of governing with a small majority.
What does that mean? We're having some fellowship behind the curtain.
Oh, so much intense fellowship happening in the Republican caucus. So little.
It's religious language. No, it's a religious language. I'm asking if anybody knows.
No one knows what that means. Yeah. They're all best friends.
I know that
McCarthy is yelling.
No, I mean I know that we have, we have some evangelical Christians in this audience.
Basically, what it is he just fucked you over. It's not going to last. All this is screwed. What the hell is the point? Well, we're having some fellowship behind the curtains. Meaning you're arguing. Right?
No, man. Fellowship my ass.
God, it's just such a fucking... They're just such a waste of space. It kills me. Oh, man. Well, anyway, I'm going to cover that for the news. It's important to just understand they're fighting. They don't know what they're doing. They're arguing about what to cut. The big issue is they want to cut all this shit, but at the same time, they don't want it to be public. And the real...
Right. We want to cut all this stuff, but we don't want you to know what it is.
Right.
We don't want it to be clear to you because then you might not let us.
Yeah. Well, for the Republicans who are kind of against this, part of it is we know it's unpopular. We're going into an election next year. Our front runner, Trump, is going to be in trial through most of the year. He's going to be facing multiple convictions. He's already gotten one judgment against him. He's going to have many more potentially, in all likelihood. And that's going to be our presidential runner. And states will be in a position where they can even take him off the ballot if they want to. Right? Because of the 14th Amendment. And you want to run on, we want to cut your Social Security and your Medicare?
Quick to the side for viewers that don't remember and are trying to Google right now, 14th Amendment tells us what?
Oh, so the 14th Amendment was after the Civil War, but part of it says that if you've been involved with an insurrection against the United States, that you can't ever serve in government, or you can be with taken off the ballot. Right. So that's part of it. And since Trump did the insurrection on January 6th, right, he doesn't have to be convicted of it. He just has to have been, it's kind of a legal jargon thing. And the states are going to handle it differently, but it's going to be up to each Secretary of State.
Right.
And the Secretaries of State are going to, and I feel bad for them because that's usually a pretty boring job. That's usually people file their business stuff or their tax stuff with you, right? But now you got to sit there and you got to do like the districts and and the voting districts and draw lines and stuff. But the rest of it, it's like now you got to sit there and decide, am I taking off a potential presidential candidate off the ballot? And is that going to, what kind of, is that going to cause protests or riots or whatever? Or death threats to me? I'm just the Secretary of State, man. You just pay your payroll tax through me. That's it.
Yep. It's supposed to be a boring job.
It is supposed to be a really boring job. But, yeah. I mean, how many of you even know who your Secretary of State is? They're basically a number cruncher for the state. It's not it's nothing sexy. It's like, who's your state treasurer? Nobody knows. I don't even know who my state treasurer is.
I don't know who mine is either.
I'd have to look it up.
No, I don't.
I don't even know who my Secretary of State is. And you know what's funny about that? I pay payroll tax every month.
You've maybe more reason to know who that is.
I write a check to her every month, and I know it's a woman. I just don't know what her name is.
And if you don't know it, you're paying that thing every freaking month. Most other people don't have a shot at it.
Oh, I get letters all the time from them, and from her, it's got her name on them, and I couldn't tell you what her name is. I never read it. Anyways, that was the news. Oh God, it's going to be a fun next year with the election. I got to tell you. But anyway, let's do a quick clip, and then let's get out of here. But let's do Dave Ramsey on Social Security. How about that? Does that sound good to you? All right. And we'll, as usual, play him at 1 1/4 speed because he's slower than dirt.
It was the same lasted, but dirt doesn't move at all.
She's with us in Seattle. Hi, Tracy. Welcome to the Ramsey Show.
Hi, James. Hi, Dr. John.
Hey, what's up?
I've got a question for you. My husband and I are having a bit of an arm wrestle about this. In May, I turned 62. In September, my husband turned 65. And in 128 days, he's counting, I retire. So I am so excited. I'm spitting bubbles. What I want to know is, when can we start drawing Social Security? What we're living on now is his pension and my paycheck, which net is about $55.50 a month. And then in August, I'll get my first retirement pension.
Okay.
The gross about $3,100, and then after taxes and my employee contribution for my retiree health and his supplemental insurance will come out of my pension check. So starting like August or September. In September, his net pension is like $2,250. My gross pension is about $3,100. So I'm not sure what the net's going to be on that. So when should we? And we're not drawing anything from his pension or his 401k or other retirement resources we've got.
How much is in your nest egg?
All right.
Hang on.
He says anything, I want to tell you what he's going to say.
Paid off.
Hang on 1 second.
His 401k, my deferred comp, savings, etc. We're right between probably 2.9 and 3.1.
Way to go! You've done such a great job. Congratulations.
Okay, so
how much of this did you inherit?
So go ahead. You were going to say he's going to say what?
Oh, he's gonna say to take your Social Security immediately. He hates Social Security, and he will tell them to, as soon as you're eligible to draw it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's what he needs to do.
Yeah. So here's the deal. It looks like I'm guessing the husband's already retired. She didn't specify that, but he's already drawing his pension. So that's what I heard, at least. So between her and her husband, his pension $2,250, hers is $3,100, so that's $5,350. 5,350, and that's $64,000 a year. I'm guessing if they have 401ks, she's got to get together. They have 2.9 to 3.1 million, so about 3 million in 401k. So just this is 64. I'm just going to do some rough estimates, and then 3 million, and let's assume 6% interest in retirement. They need it. Let's say they start drawing now and they live to their mid 90s, so 30 years. God, they can draw $217,000 a year before they, without bleeding that account out within 30 years. So they could take $18 a month from that if they needed to. And then I'm guessing they'll get them close to the max on Social Security, which is like whatever, 37 or 3,800, but let's just call it 35 just to make it easy. So for both of them, well, because if she takes it now, she's taking it early, she'll probably only get close to 2,800. But if he's maxing it out, so let's say about $7,000 between the two of them, if they took it now. If they wait, they they get probably another $1,000. Right? If she waits, what does she got to wait? 5 years? Not quite 5 years. As I could get another plus 1,000. Okay. So right now, just Social Security and their pensions, they've got $12,350 a month, roughly. So $12,000 a month. Okay. The question is, do you need much more than that? I mean, the question is, what is their goal? What do they need every month? What do they want every month is probably the better question. What do you want every month? What do you want to live on? Do you want 10K, 20K? I mean, these people have money.
Yeah, quite frankly, it's sort of, in some ways, in the realm of who cares. I mean, we don't know what their goals are, so we can't really assess that. She's just kind of randomly asking, but unless they have extremely expensive goals, it's kind of
right,
viewer choice. But also in that respect, though, there wouldn't be anything wrong with delaying it and ending up with a bigger check later too, because based on what they've already got going on,
right,
they're probably okay already. So
right,
but he'll tell them to take it right away. That's
well. So let's say, so the combined Social Securities for them is about $84,000 a year right now. If they took it now, I'm estimating, boys and girls, so don't eat my lunch because I'm guessing because I don't have all the information. But about $84,000 a year. So if they needed that for say 30 years, that would be $2.5 million that they'd get in Social Security over 30 years. Okay. Now, the trick to Social Security, I don't know if he'll get into this or not, but the trick is it's a guessing game of how long do you think you're going to live? Honestly, that's what it is. It's an annuity, the way it works. It pays you every month until you die. And then when you die, it stops paying. Right? So if they both live 30 years, right? So they get $2.5 million if they took it now. If she waits 5 years and they get the extra $1,000 a month, so that's what, his plus hers. I mean, they're going to make a little bit more, but not that much. But if they think they're going to die younger, like in their 80s, or their 70s, then it might make more sense to take it now. So, if you have medical problems, or you're from a family that has, most people die in their 70s, it makes sense to go ahead and just take it as soon as possible, because then you're going to get the most out of it. Right? If you think you're going to live longer, then it makes sense to wait and take it later. But that's the gamble you're taking on it. I mean, there's no real great answer to that other than, what do you think your life expectancy is? And then I have clients who are very large people, and their family's all large. And, most of these guys are the average life expectancy. Most of the men in my family die in their late 60s. So it's kind of well, they don't even factor in Social Security. Their goal is, I want to retire at 50. Right. Which makes sense, because it's if you don't think you're going to live to 70, then you have reason to believe that. Right. So that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's just it's a goal. What's your goal? And what do you think is going to happen? Right. I mean, he's going to do it from a different angle. Like Lacey was saying, he's going to go, well, you should take it now because it's horrible, and get your money out.
That's exactly what he's going to say. Yeah.
But if you think you're going to live a lot longer, it might make more sense to wait and get the higher amount. But for this couple, they could be withdrawing $15,000 a month until they die and still have a bunch of money left over. from their 401ks.
Right.
So,
well, let's go to them, see what they.
Well, 15,000 plus their $5,000 pension, they'd have 20,000 a month without Social Security. So Social Security is kind of superfluous. It's like, well, what do you want out of it?
Right.
Well, how long do you think you're going to live? And then I'll just draw up a chart, and then you pick what you want. I mean, it's basically it's a buffet at that point. So we'll see what he says.
Just less than a year ago, I inherited about $300,000.
So you were already making.
Well, maybe we were already millionaires. We were worth about between 2.6 and 2.7 when my mom passed away.
Yeah, wow. You've done so well. Congratulations. Very well done.
Well, thank you.
So the bottom line answer is this. It doesn't matter. Social Security doesn't mean beans to you.
Yep.
$3 million.
I agree.
You can do whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter. Now, if you want to have a math discussion just for the theory of it and the fun of it, Social Security dies when you die. And it's a negative rate of return. The money you put into Social Security, you will never get all of it out.
That's actually not true. For somebody her age, she's going to get about $1.05 for every dollar she put in, adjusting for inflation. Now, that is true if you're talking to somebody who's our age, right? Or younger. And the reason is because the trust fund will run out, whatever it is, 2045. We haven't been funding it properly. And that's what the big debate is. And that's why Republicans want to cut it, because it's, it's a big expense, right, for the government. And the only reason it's a big expense for the government is because the government borrows our money all the time out of it and has to pay it back. So if you cut Social Security, the government doesn't have to pay all that money back. But then the average American gets screwed because millions and millions and millions, tens of millions of people rely on Social Security to survive. People with disabilities, the elderly. So the negative return thing, yeah, it's true if we don't do something about it. If we do something about it, that won't be the case. So, I mean, it's kind of a crapshoot. So to sit there and say that, first off, for her, it's not. She's going to get the same or more than she put in, roughly. Right? For younger people, right now, the projection is you're going to get less. We'll probably get 80 cents on the dollar. People our age. People younger than us, maybe 70, 75. And in fact, people our age right now, if you do nothing about it, we're only going to get about 70 cents on the dollar. So that's what he said is bullshit. It's not the whole truth. He's withholding information.
Right.
So you might as well get all you can get as fast as you can get. So I take it early and often and just throw it into an investment if you don't need it.
You called it.
Yeah, and the crazy thing, to add into the mix, my husband's thinking of going back and getting a job. And it's like we don't need him to be working, and here I am on the verge of retiring.
None of this matters. Here's the thing: Social Security, little bitty amount of money, $3 million, a lot of money. Your whole life is governed by the fact that you have the returns on $3 million to live out the rest of your life in style, with incredible generosity and with incredible enjoyment. And
here's the thing: is it's the details. We have a lot of flexibility. I wouldn't say they don't necessarily matter, but we have a lot of flexibility here. So these are kind of paltry issues. The big issue is does your husband want to work?
He might be just thinking about going back to work because he's bored. He might just be bored.
Well, I see that a lot. A lot. I'll have the client, they're 62 or 60, whatever, 67, they'll retire, and then they'll be like, take a few trips, and then, or they'll, just take time off for 3 or 4 months, and then they'll be calling me like, oh yeah, I'm volunteering here, or I'm working here, or I got a job here, because they were sitting at home. I mean, they couldn't handle it. You can only watch The Price is Right so many times. Good Morning America. I mean, anybody?
I'm pretty sure my dad had every episode of Charmed memorized.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, like,
Oh,
at a certain point, you're like, I don't know what to do.
well, dude, I remember before they had the gout treatments, my dad was laid up with gout for like 3 months. And he watched the entire series of Star Trek The Next Generation, which was like 9 or 10 seasons.
I was going to say, that was not a short program.
No, and there were like I don't know, there were a ton of shows per season. So you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of hours of television. And he watched it all within like a week or two. And then he's calling me. He's like, go get me some more TV series on DVD.
You're like, well, what's Dad need to watch?
Yeah, so I'm running around looking for like, well, what would he like? You know, you're calling him on the phone. Okay, I'm at the store. This is what they got. How do you feel about Friends?
How do you feel about watching every episode of The Golden Girls? I'm into it, but his dad, don't know.
No, but after his gout went down, went away, right? Doesn't ever really go away, but when it went down, and he could function again, man. He didn't watch TV for probably like 2 weeks because he was so freaking sick of it. I mean, I could see it. So the thing here to understand is with Social Security, it's a life expectancy game. It's just like with annuity, right? You gotta, if I feel like I'm gonna live a lot longer and I want to get the most out of Social Security, then I need to wait longer, right? If I want to get the most out of Social Security and I feel like I'm going to die younger, then I want to take it as soon as possible, right? And start piling up money. With most people, though, that's not the objective, which is what I think is so funny about this. The objective usually is, I want to retire because A, I don't want to work anymore. B, I have, a medical issue and can't really work anymore. Or C, I'm just so stressed it's causing problems and I want to switch to a lower paying job. That happens all the freaking time to people in their 60s. They just can't handle the stress of their job anymore because they're old. And I don't blame them. If you spend 20 years or your 30 years of your life in a stressful job, like you're a lawyer or a doctor or, something like that, not like financial planning, which is, there is some stress to it, but it's not nearly that level, right? But it's like, man, I mean, I have clients who are lawyers that are just like, shit, I don't care, man. I'll go mow lawns, drive a bus. I just got to get out of this job. It's going to kill me. I'm going to have a heart attack by the time I'm 63, So that's a lot of it. With most people, it's when do you want to retire? That's the question. And that's when we start talking about Social Security. Her husband's already retired, talked about maybe going back to work, probably because he's freaking bored. Right? And I hate to say this too, sometimes marriages only survive because you guys don't see each other for most of the day.
I'm not going to name the friend because her marriage is fine and we want to keep it that way, but I have a friend who avoided retiring for years because she wasn't sure that it was a good idea for her and her husband both to be home.
Yeah. It's the...
It's like, I mean, I like my husband, but I don't know if I think we both need to be there all the time.
Right.
She finally did retiring. I think they're okay so far,
Right. It's like,
we're working out the hobbies.
Yeah, it's the old, I love my wife for about 45 minutes in the morning and about 3 or 4 hours in the evening and maybe 2 weeks out of the year for vacation. But that's about all I can handle. Oh, man. Anyways, so, I mean, whoa, are you in Sirenville? All right, we'll cut that out. I'll let that pass. So anyway, it's just one of those things where it's like, look, it's kind of, the question really is What do you want to do with the Social Security? How much do you need? Then we can talk about it. But right now, it's not even a question of do you need it? It's a question of what do you want out of it? And what can we get? That's it. I mean, these people have so much money. We have so much flexibility. You have the option. But you know what I think is really funny about this? Is when he's talking to somebody who's lower income, it's never, well, it doesn't matter, do what you want. It's you're a loser. You have to do X, Y, Z. When he's talking to a rich person, it's like, oh, well, good for you. Congratulations. Aren't you successful and wonderful and great? And, it doesn't matter. Just do whatever you want. It's like...
Just to be clear, even if they did not have a lot of money, he's inclined to tell them to take it right away.
Oh, yeah, because that's just because he hates the program. Yeah, but this is all... Right. This is all... His whole thing is structured on his preconceived biases, not on what the client wants. That's what I'm trying to illustrate.
Sure.
His bias that if you're rich, you're already smart and capable and a good person. Social Security's bad because anything that, that's socialist, that helps out the working class is bad. He hates all that.
If you'd never got a Social Security check ever, it wouldn't affect this discussion. If you get one, it doesn't affect this discussion. It's a mathematical discussion is all it is. It's just like a little math riddle is all it is. But it really does not affect your life because of how great a job you've done building wealth. You did what you're supposed to do. You didn't depend on social insecurity. Thank God it's not 50% of your income or 70% of your income. It's 1% or less than 1% of your income. Because your income should be $300,000-$400,000 a year off of these returns on these investments.
Whoa. That's not what I came up with.
$300,000 a year. And we're talking about
200 is what they could do.
Social Security's going to be nothing. It's nothing. So
what is it? What did he say there?
Social Security's going to be nothing. It's nothing. So it's a freaking joke, which is what it's always been.
And by the way, a lot of...
Okay, that's bullshit. So here's the deal, just to close this out. So right now, the Social Security Trust Fund is what they're talking about, okay? What happened is in the 80s, the baby boomers, because there was just a ton of them, and they weren't having as many kids, there weren't going to be as many people to pay into the program to cover them when they got older. Now, prior to that, the way Social Security worked is you work, you pay your Social Security tax, right? Your employer takes it out every month, or if you're an employer, you pay it, right? It goes into the Social Security fund, and then the Social Security fund takes that money and pays it out to the Social Security recipients. And the fund usually didn't have money left over to speak of. It was pretty balanced out. If it had some money, it just rolled over back into the fund. Well, what happened in the 80s, they realized, the baby boomers aren't going to have that problem where there's not going to be enough money coming in from the younger generation, right? They were wrong about that because our productivity was 3 times higher than our parents, which they couldn't predict, right? But what ended up happening was they said, okay, we're going to raise Social Security tax. They did this in the early 80s under Reagan. We're going to raise Social Security, and we're going to create a trust fund and invest that money, right? Which is what they did. And they created the trust fund, and the trust fund was then supposed to pay out the baby boomers, right? So the trust fund is just a surplus of cash that the baby boomers put in order to cover their Social Security, which is what it's doing now. And it should run out at about, I think it was 2045 or something like that. 2035, 45, something like that. Doesn't really matter. But this is the lie that they tell you. The trust fund runs out and Social Security will be nothing. Well, what they're missing is no, it won't, because Social Security is funded by you paying taxes. So there's always money coming into Social Security. So like I was saying earlier, people in their 40s right now, when you retire, and full retirement for you is 67 because they upped the age.
So it's not like a bathtub that's draining without a running faucet.
No, it's a bathtub that's already mostly full and it has a running faucet. Yeah, that's a great example. But that's the thing is when you retire, if you're 40 now and you retire at 67, right, the trust fund will be gone, but you can expect that you're still going to get about 70% of what your benefit should have been, right? Because there would still be money coming in to cover at least that much. Right? So the problem is to sit there and go, well, it's going to be nothing, or it's a failed program, it doesn't work. It's one of the most popular programs in the country. It keeps tens of millions of people out of poverty. Elderly people, disabled people who can't work. That's what it's for. So we don't have to deal with that because that would cause an economic problem if you had all these people on the street. Right? Because that's why they started in the first place. Because they used to have elderly people just dying on the street, living in abandoned buildings. They called them death houses back in the 30s. That's why they started Social Security. Because it used to be you didn't have anything like that. So this whole thing is, he's just being ridiculous. It's not going to run out. If we fix it, it will cover 100%, but we have to fix it and how we tax it. And that means, I think the simple answer to that is removing the cap so that rich people have to pay Social Security above $250,000.
Right.
Then that wouldn't be a problem anymore. And then that would solve it. And then the other issue is that, does it matter when you take it? Well, yeah, depending on what your goals are. And for her to sit there and say, well, hey, it doesn't really matter if you take it or don't. $84,000 a year doesn't matter. It's kind of a stupid thing to say, even to a millionaire.
Honestly, though, it doesn't matter, I think, is more about the fact that she doesn't particularly need it, so
No.
she can kind of just whatever. I think that's more the point, honestly.
No, I know, but it's you're dismissing that amount of money. He is not even factoring in how much money it is. Because, okay, well, you don't...
Right. If he factored in how much money it is, then the program looks less stupid.
Right.
And all of his argument is built upon a foundation that says this program's stupid. So if he goes and says how much money they're going to be getting in Social Security, that won't sound stupid to me.
Right. But you could...
It won't sound stupid to most people.
But you could sit there and say, well, you don't really need it. So if you wanted to, you could take that $84,000 a year and you could give it to charity. I don't... You know? I mean, it doesn't matter what you do with it if you don't need it, right? But if you want it, that's what it is.
It supports his argument better to omit what it is and tell her to be generous because she's done a really good job, because all of his stuff goes back to personal responsibility,
right?
Which absolutely is a factor, but he wants to create it as the only factor, and he doesn't want any systems,
right,
good or bad, to get to factor in.
Right. So, anyway, good stuff. You know, I don't necessarily disagree with the assessment on the Social Security. She can kind of take it whenever, depending on her goals, but I would have asked a lot more questions. And then I would have given her, well, you know, based on your goals, this is what I do.
But you would have an answer that would vary
right.
based on those goals. He doesn't have to ask any questions because he's going to give one canned answer when it comes to Social Security. Therefore, it doesn't make any damn difference in the world.
Right.
Who's in front of them and what their goals are.
Well, it brings me to the question of this is, why even call into the show? Just call Lacey. Lacey will tell you what his answer is.
You know what? That would be fun. Maybe people should call in and ask me what Dave Ramsey would tell them to do, and then you should tell them what they should really do.
Right? Yeah, that'll be our new thing. Call Lacey and ask Lacey what Dave Ramsey would say. You'll have an easier time.
You can get them better advice.
There you go. Anyway, that's our show for today. Thanks, everybody.
Is that where I'd have to put a disclaimer that would say all opinions are not my own? They
Oh,
are
David Ramsey's? Yeah, we'll put it on the screen.
Because I would not want everyone to think they were my opinions.
Yeah, we'll put it as a buyer beware. All right, well, that's our show. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks, Lacey. Good work. Where can everybody catch you?
All right, as always, everybody can catch me at mysensewithsense.com for articles I've written, information about courses, workshops that I conduct. If you have further questions about any of those, if you have topic requests, or send us a clip. I enjoyed the last one we got from a viewer. Send us topic requests, clips, or invite yourselves to come and talk to us.
Yep.
Go ahead and email. So where can they do that, Duncan?
Email us at gossipfinancead@outlook.com. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we will catch you next time. All right, good work, Lace.